Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar titled Successfully Take Off in 2022 with 2D and 3D. My name is Rachel Trochi and I'll be hosting this webinar today. I am also hosting this webinar alongside my colleague Austin Ellert, who will introduce himself shortly. And we also do have a few members from our product and product marketing teams to help answer questions as they come in on this call as well. So please put your questions in the Q&A box and they'll be answering those as soon as they can. So a little bit about myself before we jump in and get started. My name is Rachel. Like I just mentioned, I am a technical solutions executive on the Autodesk Construction team. I currently work to support all of our different mid-market construction accounts in order for them to really understand where some of their inefficiencies lie and help them evaluate the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform from the technical side of things in order to gain much greater efficiencies across the board. My background's in civil engineering, but then I jumped right into construction and was working primarily on the pre-construction side before coming over to Autodesk. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys today, and now I'll introduce my colleague, Austin.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. I'm Austin Ellert. I'm also a technical solutions executive with Autodesk. My background's in structural engineering, and I've been with Autodesk for about 3 years. I'm based here in Los Angeles, and I support all of our customers here on the West Coast. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. So as we jump in, before we get started, if you do have any questions, like I mentioned, please ask them in the Q&A box and we'll try to get to as many as we can throughout the webinar. And if we do have some time at the end, we can also take some time then to answer some questions live. So continue to pop those questions in there and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So during today's presentation, we'll cover what Autodesk Takeoff is, how to win more bids with faster, more accurate takeoff, and then we'll jump right into a product demo to see Autodesk Takeoff in action, so that way you can understand how we can really help you complete your takeoffs more efficiently. So just for starters here to level set a little bit, it's obviously not a big secret that 2021 was a very challenging year for the construction industry, much like many other industries, dealing with major supply chain issues, increases in material costs, and also having to navigate the massive labor shortages. But despite all these challenges, contractors are really feeling optimistic about 2022. Based on a recent survey results released by the Associated General Contractors of America, they are actually expecting to restart those delayed projects and tackle the supply chain issues and labor shortages throughout the year. And with the expected dollar value of projects across most building segments expected to increase, this can really lead to higher revenue growth for your companies as long as you're able to build an accurate project estimate early, especially given those rising material costs. And in the latest global construction survey by KPMG, contractors and owners reported technology as the second most important capability to help deal with some of these disruptive events that we've seen over the past year. 50% of the engineering and construction firms that responded, they plan on heavily investing in technology, with others reporting additional moderate investment. So why are so many engineering and construction firms planning to invest heavily in technology? Because it truly can help to alleviate the pains of skyrocketing material costs and labor shortages by helping to define costs more accurately early on and by helping teams work more efficiently together. So as you prepare to take on new jobs this year or restart the projects that were delayed, we want you to really think about what you can do to create a robust pre-construction strategy, which can really make the most impact on the bottom line and really set the tone for the entire project lifecycle. So today we're obviously going to talk about Autodesk Takeoff, but before we dive into it, let's look at some of the benefits that come from implementing a cloud-based 2D and 3D takeoff approach. So by leveraging a combined 2D and 3D experience, you can leverage a single source of truth for all team members to collaborate from. This will ensure that all teams are looking at the most up-to-date information to build their estimates. And of course, being cloud-based will also increase collaboration across teams in order to reduce any potential for duplication of effort and create a much more seamless experience during estimating reviews. So to continue to enhance collaboration, all teams really should be working through comparable processes during takeoffs, and so that way you can really standardize on one solution. So all estimators are using the same classification systems and takeoff types to really enable that collaboration. And then lastly, a connected 2D and 3D experience will allow all estimators to take off more efficiently and accurately.
And that brings us to Autodesk Takeoff. Autodesk Takeoff allows estimators to perform more accurate 2D takeoffs and generate automatic quantities from 3D models within a single takeoff solution that helps you to work more collaboratively and generate more accurate quantities faster. Autodesk Takeoff is part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud and leverages Autodesk Docs for its document control, the same document management that's leveraged by Autodesk BIM Collaborate and Autodesk Build. This ensures a single source of truth for our project. Stay connected from design to construction in a single environment. And now let's see Autodesk Takeoff in action. I'm going to first run through project setup so that we can establish a company standard on projects going forward, setting us up for success. So on the screen now is our project list. This allows us to access all of our projects from a single location, and we can also set up our project templates. Project templates allow you to configure template settings for Autodesk Takeoff, including takeoff packages, classifications, measurement systems, and definitions for takeoff types. In this example, I'm going to be using my Autodesk Office template. I'm going to first navigate to the takeoff module here by selecting it in the dropdown. And now you can see in our template setup here, we have the ability to configure our takeoff packages and our files. You can think of these takeoff packages as ways to organize and contain all of your takeoff data related to one scope of work in your project. Think of this as like a scope of work or a bid package. I'll go into my structural takeoff package here, and you can see my different definitions for my takeoff types. In this example, I have concrete, masonry, metals, and finishes. You can see my different tool types here that range from linear, area, count, or even BIM takeoff types. This is going to establish a standard for our team moving forward. Also, in the settings tab here, we can set up our classification system. In the files, in the files tab, we can address our file folder structure here, and we can allow our team to work off of the same file folder structure. Awesome. So now I'm going to show the setup in the project. Again, Autodesk Takeoff is all about collaboration. We have multiple estimators that are working on different trades on the same bid. We want to make sure that we can have all of our team members in the same environment here. So first, I'm going to go to the Members tab on the left sidebar. So the left sidebar here, you have Home, Packages, Sheets, Models, Files, and Members. And now within Members, I'll just add my teammate by using a email address. So in this case, I'll just add Rachel. I'll type out her email. You can also add multiple at any given time, and then I can assign Rachel a role and company. And these roles and companies are great because we can set up permissions downstream in different modules. I can also set up her member access here. So if she is a project member or a project admin, I can define those rights here. At the bottom, we have all of our modules. So not only just our pre-con products with Takeoff, but we also have products like Build and Cost Management that can allow to connect estimating to the field. So I'll give Rachel access to Build since she's a PM on this project. Awesome. You can also always check your member permissions and their module access here by clicking on their name in the Members tab, and you can turn on and off different modules based on what their needs are on the project. Cool. Now we're going to go to the Packages tab. So again, I'm in the project here. We have some live packages, and then also we also have our files here. So the Files tab is essentially Autodesk Docs. Remember, Autodesk Docs is our single source of truth for all of our project documents. This is where we'll upload our plans and specs that we want to use for Autodesk Takeoff. In this case, you can see the ability to add subfolders, also the ability to set up permissions on folders, and we can even send these documents for review if they need to be reviewed internally or even externally. In this case, I have this electrical PDF that's been reviewed, and by just clicking the checkbox next to the file, I can directly publish this to Takeoff sheets and models. So any PDF or model we can push into Takeoff and then use that in our Takeoff solution. I'm just going to open up this PDF to make sure it's the right one that I want to use. You can see there's some markups here that I've added. Again, this is all Docs functionality with our document control and document management. Now I'm in the Packages tab here, so we can see all the scopes that are on this project. And in the settings here in the top right, this is where we've defined our classification system. Classification systems make it easier to take the data from Takeoff and connect it to estimating and use it with our external systems. In this case, as a general contractor, I have my CSI codes here broken out by level, and you can see the code description and unit of measurement for that classification code. We also have the ability to have a secondary classification system so that we can apply two classifications to the same takeoff. In this case, it's a uniformat structure, and then also we can set up our measurement system, whether that's an imperial or a metric project. This is the template in case you want to upload your own classification codes. All you need to do is follow the instructions at the top, and it really just needs a code, description, and a level so that you can upload your own custom classification codes. All right, so I think I'm going to pass it back to Rachel, and she'll dive deeper into the Autodesk Takeoff product.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. So yeah, now we're going to dive a little bit deeper and kind of walk through what that 2D and 3D takeoff workflow really looks like within the tool. So as we jump in here, just for starters, we are starting from that Packages tab. So like Austin showed, all of the plan sets and drawings are already uploaded and ready for us to collaborate on. So like Austin mentioned, these packages can be organized however you want, typically based off of different scopes of work here. And as we jump in, we then can start to dive into our different plan sets. So you can see I have access to my 2D drawings, I have access to my 3D. I can also filter in through large different sets of drawings. And as I click into them, you'll be able to see any existing takeoffs that are already on that plan. So you can see I already have some walls and doors taken off on here, but if I want to go through and continue to add additional takeoffs in here, I can go ahead and leverage any existing takeoff types or create a new one, which we'll walk through. We also can leverage that standardization with importing over different takeoff types. So I can import takeoff types from any of those templates that we have, or I can also import takeoff types from another project. So once we jump in here and we want to create a new takeoff type, all we have to do is just hit that little blue plus sign. And so let's say I'm going to walk through a tile takeoff. So let's just say, it's a 6-inch by 6-inch tile. So we title that. We can then go ahead and select our tool type. So this is going to be a flooring tile that I'm going to be taking off. So we'll select that area tool type. We can define any colorization that we want to be applying to the plans. And then we start to define our outputs. So for my tile takeoff for the flooring, I want to be able to classify this so we can organize it based on that CSI code to make it a little bit easier when we go to push this in quantity information over into our estimate. And then we'll define that unit of measure. So first off, I always want to pull my square footage here for my flooring. So we'll go ahead and we'll select that area. But if we also wanted to know the count of tiles that needed to be ordered here for this section of flooring, we can also go ahead and add an additional output for our tile count. So you can see in here, I'm selecting a unit of measure as count, and I'm going to embed a formula in here. So I want to divide my area based on the area of each tile that's going to be on that floor. So as you go about just kind of typing in that formula there, now when I go through that takeoff, we seamlessly will be able to get the total floor area as well as the total count of all of our tiles. So if I hit start takeoff and I start to zoom in, you can see that we have, snap to our different points here, snapping to the corners. And if I just double click, that completes that floor takeoff. And again, over on the left, you'll be able to see those quantities counting up there as you're taking off this flooring tile. So if I just hit my space bar, I can always come through, adjust these different takeoffs, add curved lines if I wanted to, add additional vertices or anything like that as needed. We also can go through and create some more automation and duplication in here as well. So if I come through and just do a drag to select and select all these different units here, this happens to be a college housing building, so has a lot of different dorm units in it. So we don't want to have to go through, take off every single unit. We can go through, we can mirror any of these units as we want to. We can rotate them 90 degrees, or we can just do a quick copy and paste. So just by using Control C and Control V on my keyboard, I copied those takeoffs and then added them to the rest of the units down the hallway. So it makes it super easy to kind of continue that. Obviously, you then can make any adjustments as needed. If it's not perfect alignment down the hall here, you can go ahead and make any changes. So that is kind of the 2D process of things and how to gather all of those different quantities. From here, we then of course could select on any other takeoff type and continue that 2D takeoff as needed. We also can jump in and start to gain even more automation from the 3D model. So as I jump in here, I can start to select different things within the model. This will help you understand the project a little bit better and create more of that automation and efficiency within your takeoff process. So what you're seeing within this model is that all those pink windows have already been taken off. There are some additional window types that haven't been taken off just yet. So if I wanted to select all those O2 windows, just do a right click and then select all windows of that type. And then I can generate a new takeoff type. So we'll just say these are my O2 windows. We're going to gather that BIM tool type, and then we're going to define that output again. So again, you can continue to gather multiple outputs here. For windows, I just need my count, but if you wanted your area of windows, you could also pull that from the model. And as you start that takeoff right away, because I've selected all of them and hit that check mark, now I've taken off all 23 windows. So it really creates a lot more efficient of a process than just tracking and tracing over those 2D plans. As I select on the flooring here, I can go ahead and hide different things within the model. You can also use this model browser to understand the model a little bit better, as well as filter right down into my different levels. So if I click on just my 4th floor here, I can easily drive in, understand if I missed anything on the interior side of the model. I can click on a door, go ahead and take that off again. So again, now that's colorized and taken off with those other doors there, those 36 by 84 doors. And then you can also continue to investigate the model a little bit more by utilizing our sectioning. So just using that sectioning pane here, you can obviously see I'm sectioning from kind of that, vertical aspect there, but you can also come through and add in other planes in here to continue to section down that model. And then lastly, we have our form clusters command, which really breaks down the model into kind of an estimator's point of view. So you can really then understand, okay, these are all my windows on the project. Have I missed any of these windows from the model? I can select on any of those, take them off directly from here, or I can go ahead and hit that form clusters command again and have it bring me right back into that model and show exactly where that window should be located within that model. So again, it continues to give you a better understanding of that project by being able to leverage that 3D model a little bit better. I did hear from one customer more recently, and they were taking off a project that they were able to understand that the entire railing that he had taken off in the 2D side of things was actually a totally different material type. And it was hard to identify that without looking at that model. So as you can see here, just below the model here, we have our inventory. So from this inventory, this can be organized based off of that classification group. It can be organized based on your different takeoff types. And then we can also start to select on different items and investigate where they were actually taken off in the project. So whether it's from the 2D side of things or from that 3D side of things. And we also have the ability now to assign out different locations to our takeoff items. So if I wanted to select everything on this floor plan here, I could go ahead, select on assign a location, and then select a location from our dropdown. Once we do that, we now can organize our quantities directly in the inventory based off of that location. So I can break things down and have a full breakdown of all of my quantities on each floor of the project. Maybe you want to break it out into different zones. You can really organize it on however granular of a level that you want. And because Autodesk Takeoff is a part of the Construction Cloud platform, all of these locations will then follow suit further down through that project lifecycle as well. Another point here that I want to make is you can make inline adjustments directly for our different quantities. So let's say that I know that, some of these 6-inch metal stud walls are now a little bit taller than they were originally estimated at. I can come through, select them, make those adjustments, and because of that formula that we have derived, our square footage now for all those walls is being adjusted. So it's really easy, kind of make any quick adjustments on the fly as you're working through. And then of course, once that final estimate's complete, we can export this information out directly into Excel to then push over into that finalized estimate. So we gather all these quantities from the 2D and the 3D side of things, and then populate all that directly into Excel to finalize that estimate in Excel or push into an estimating database. Back here on our packages tab, we also have the ability to save a project snapshot. So these project snapshots are huge because you essentially can save a time and place where all your quantities were at. So I'm saving as an example 50% DD takeoff snapshot here. So now all of these quantities will always be referenceable throughout that project. So you guys can have an understanding of how those quantities are developing and changing based on different design changes throughout that full project. And then within your work in progress tab, you can always jump into any of those new updated drawings, pull over those previous takeoffs forward into the next design iteration, and then continue that takeoff process and make those adjustments there. And of course, you can add in as many different snapshots in here as you want to really continue to track that full estimate throughout that project lifecycle. So that was a quick walkthrough here of Autodesk Takeoff. There's definitely a lot more capabilities that we didn't highlight, but I think really highlighting the 2D and the 3D collaboration side of things is really important. So that way you can really be able to take off any job. So some jobs don't always have a 3D model. Leveraging that 2D information can be really important and really crucial. And then when you do have that 3D model, you're not going to leverage it for 100% of your estimate. You're going to kind of gather some of those larger quantities like your windows, like your doors, to really substantiate that estimate and fill that out fully for you, and also kind of gain some efficiency and accuracy along the way there. So real quick here, also wanted to touch on a lot of our feature enhancements that we have delivered since the initial launch of Autodesk Takeoff back in March. We've made a ton of significant enhancements along the way by working closely with our customers to better meet their quantification needs. But obviously, we're not done, and we're really excited to work more and more with customers like you guys to continue to make enhancements and really shape the future of quantification and estimating. In fact, like I mentioned before, some of our product team members are on the line here and have been answering your questions directly through the Q&A panel, which really helps them to understand what truly is important to our customers. So this is a list of feature enhancements that we've released just since our launch, and many of these feature enhancements have actually come directly from our customers' feedback. All right, so now if you do have any more questions, feel free to continue to submit them within the Q&A box, and we'll be launching a quick poll question now. So please let us know if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Autodesk Takeoff. I know that was just a real quick high level but we'd love to kind of dive a little bit deeper in with you guys. So just answer that poll question there. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and see if there's any questions that we can start to answer live here.
Awesome. I think there's a good question here, Rachel, from Betty. Do we have to load the classification template every time we do a takeoff? And the answer for that is no. If you're using the templates that we went over in the beginning, all the settings will be automatically applied. So that includes the takeoff packages and the classifications, the measurement systems, and all those definitions for those takeoff types. So that would have an automatic application to projects going forward using that template.
Awesome. Great question. Another question that I'm seeing here is where is the 3D image generated from? So if you're talking about that 3D model that I had kind of walked through that 3D takeoff for, that is taken directly from a Revit model. So all you have to do is upload that Revit model directly into Autodesk Takeoff, and then you can start that takeoff process there.
All right, and another one, an example for glazing or glass takeoff. So yeah, we can definitely show some examples of that. I mean, I have customers that use this for glazing takeoffs. They're either pulling it from the model or they're doing it on elevations in 2D. So it's really just about how you set up the your takeoff packages and your definitions, and then we can pull those glass or glazing quantities either from the model or the elevations.
Absolutely. And there was another question about how we handle drawing iterations. And so if there are any updated revisions, those will be uploaded directly into the tool. We have an awesome change management functionality where we can overlay any 2D plans to understand what the changes are within those plans, as well as run a quick change analysis on our 3D models. And then that will automatically show you guys exactly what quantities have been adjusted. And the other benefit is that when you do upload in that new design iteration, on the 2D side of things, you can actually pull forward all of your takeoffs from that previous design iteration. So we'll automatically leaf it in as that new version, and you'll have the option to pull forward those takeoffs from the 2D directly onto that next version. And once you do that, obviously you can make any adjustments based off of any changes that have happened during the plan kind of new revision. And then on the 3D side of things, once you run that that updated revision into Autodesk Takeoff, you'll be able to see a full analysis of all the quantities that have been changed. From there, you can either choose to accept those changes and carry those forward, or you can go ahead and not accept those changes and kind of walk through that takeoff process again.
Another question here about what type of drawing files does 2D support, and then what type of files for 3D. So today it's 2D PDFs, so .pdf for 2D takeoffs, and then for 3D it's .rvt or Revit file types.
Awesome. And then another question more around BIM model items. So is there a built-in identification of BIM model items? Are you limited to how well the designer has input BIM model information within that model? So totally understand where that question comes from. Obviously, the model is going to be fairly somewhat dependent on what the designer is putting together. However, when you're actually working through that 3D takeoff process, you have the ability to essentially redefine different elements. So if you selected on a window and it wasn't properly defined as the right type of window, you have the ability to actually go through and give it a different title when you generate that takeoff type. So you can pull it directly from the model, or you can just retype and add add more information to that title. The other piece of that is, like I mentioned towards the end, obviously you're not going to do 100% of your takeoffs within that 3D model. You'll probably get a good chunk of the way there. Of course, if things aren't modeled correctly or aren't modeled at all, you'll want to then go back into the 2D to complete that takeoff there.
Another question, Can more than one person work on a project at a time? And the answer is 100% yes. That's, I think, one of our biggest values in using Autodesk Takeoff. The fact that you can access all of this takeoff data 24/7 anywhere in the world with a web browser. So it's no longer stuck at an estimator's desk. Maybe he's on vacation or in an airplane. You can have all this data for your entire team accessible everywhere. So it's really great for visibility and increasing that collaboration.
Absolutely. There's another question that said, if I have a PDF file drawing, can I still do the takeoff for a curtain wall system? So you absolutely can still do whatever takeoff is needed within the 2D side of things. All you need to do is just upload that PDF directly into Autodesk Takeoff and start that traditional takeoff process that you'd be doing, whether that be in another takeoff solution or just in traditional methods with pen and paper. You'd just be evaluating that 2D drawing. Of course, if you had that 3D model, it's going to be even easier to take off that curtain wall system, but you can absolutely do so on the 2D side as well.
Here's a good question. Strictly in regards to 3D takeoffs, can you elaborate on how Autodesk Takeoff is better to use than Assemble? So I'd say Autodesk Takeoff is not necessarily better at 3D takeoffs than Assemble. It's just more unified to our other offerings such as Autodesk Build, Autodesk Docs, and BIM Collaborate. And then also it has a model conditioning component, so you can add parameters on top of model objects. But it's not necessarily better or worse. It's just a different workflow. And of course, Takeoff allows you to do 2D takeoffs, which Assemble does not allow you to do.
All right. I am trying to dig through a lot of these questions here. One of the questions is, can more than one person work on a project at a time? Absolutely. So one of the huge benefits of Autodesk Takeoffs is that it is a cloud-based program, and so that enables a lot of different team members to jump in, work off the same plan sets, and how we would organize those takeoffs by those different team members when they're collaborating together on a project is based off of those different packages. So sometimes, as a best practice, some customers might, create an architectural package and put their initials on the end of it, but it allows different team members to be able to see the different takeoffs that, their team members are doing and continue to work with the same plan set. So not everyone has to, download the files onto their desktop to get them set up themselves for their own takeoffs. Everyone kind of collaborate on the same plan set. And that's going to be really helpful to ensure that all estimators are working off the most up-to-date drawing set, because that admin can go ahead and upload in those drawings, or maybe it's the chief estimator or the lead estimator on the project, upload in those drawings, and then all of that data is there for them to ready to go.
This is a good question. As a former draftsman myself, the keyboard shortcuts, are keyboard shortcuts supported? A huge benefit of desktop applications is the ability for large amounts of keyboard shortcuts. And yes, that's definitely the case here. With our cloud-based solution, we have a ton of keyboard shortcuts, obviously Control V, Control C, as well as a number of other keyboard shortcuts to help speed up the workflow when doing takeoff.
So seeing a couple questions on the full recording. So just so everyone knows, there will be a recording sent out via email to everyone who registered for the webinar. So you will definitely get the recording. Another question that I see here is the inventory export used to give added up sums of similar takeoff types. Now I have to manually add all sources of any same takeoff type myself. It adds a lengthy, repetitive step. So essentially, when you do go through and you develop those different takeoff types, you can organize them in different manners. So if you organize them based on classification type, you could then easily go through and have that sum up. Same way, you could also organize things by location or something like that, so that way your quantities will sum up there as well. And then I would maybe evaluate the different ways that you guys are developing takeoff type. So if you have a lot of standard walls that you want to be taking off, you guys can organize those together to have those quantities sum up as well.
Seen a couple of questions about version control and overlays and comparing design changes. That's completely supported. That's within our Autodesk Docs common data environment that Autodesk Takeoff sits on top of. So all of the PDFs that you upload will all be version controlled, and you can overlay a new version or an older version to the newest version and see those changes visually. So that's definitely supported as the overlay feature in Docs.
Absolutely. Another question is when the model is updated, then say 10 doors are added, do I need to add them to the takeoff manually? So that's going to be that change management process. So if you had a model and you had taken off those doors originally from the model, we would be able to automatically identify that 10 doors were added and add them to your estimate, or excuse me, add them to your total quantity takeoff. However, if you were taking off from the 2D side of things, you would have to go through and manually add those 10 doors. We'd be able to pull forward the quantities from, let's say the previous 100 doors that you've taken off, but you would want to then go and add those doors into the takeoff. So it depends on how you're approaching the takeoff there.
Seen a couple questions about the ProEst acquisition. So that was a recent acquisition with Autodesk, acquiring an estimating solution called ProEst. We're still ironing out the details of how, and if these will be combined. We're learning how we're going to assimilate their company into ours. So right now they are their own product, but they're going to be, working towards unification with others. So that's kind of an update on the ProEst acquisition that happened this past December.
Yeah, a lot of great questions on the ProEst acquisition, and we're very, very excited to have that team on board and fully ultimately kind of bring them into the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform. One question here is how long does it usually take for onboarding, really learning how to use the software? So that's a great question. Typically, because Autodesk Takeoff is very easy to use, it doesn't take too long. What you'll initially want to do is ensure that you get kind of your takeoff type set up as well as your classification code list set up. From there, we'll help you guys with some trainings. So typically, if you sign up for software through Autodesk Construction Cloud, you'll have a dedicated customer success manager that will help work with you guys through that onboarding process. But no more than a few hours of training, and typically a lot of our customers are up and running. We also do have a lot of online generated content. So we have a full Autodesk Takeoff Learning Central where you can go and watch quick videos if there are any questions additionally that come up after that initial onboarding. All right, so some more questions in here. Let's see. So is the 2D takeoff working on a PDF or a CAD file? So the 2D takeoff is currently just working on PDFs that are uploaded directly into Autodesk Takeoff. So that's going to be kind of the main tool from the 2D side of things, uploading in that PDF. And then from the 3D side of things, we'll be working off of that Revit file. We do have the ability to extract plans directly from a model as well within our doc side of things. And then of course you could pull that information over as well.
We have some questions around like pricing, packaging, and user based. So there's different licensing options. There's user based. There's also account based, which is unlimited users, as well as there's bundle pricing. So bundles can include things like building connected with Autodesk Takeoff, so that you have a whole bid management solution as well. So it's pretty flexible in terms of our pricing and packaging, but we can definitely follow up with anyone who wants to learn more.
Absolutely. And there are a ton of questions about, if we can show different types of takeoffs, and we'd absolutely love to be able to sit here with you guys all day and kind of walk through different takeoff options that are applicable to, your type of business. But we love to kind of sit down with you guys one-on-one. So if you didn't have a chance to answer yes to that poll question, definitely feel free to check out our website, and request a demo, and we would be happy to walk through what that takeoff looks like for your applicable area of the business. A couple other questions. Let's see here. So this question is, can different libraries be made of takeoff conditions in order to be imported and used on future similar project types? So you absolutely can do that. So that was kind of what Austin was showing in the beginning with leveraging our different templates. And so within those templates, you can set up as many different templates as you want to and create that library of takeoff types and takeoff conditions, to then be utilized on future projects. You also do have the ability to import any previous existing takeoff conditions into new projects if they didn't initially start from that template project. So you can pull over from any other project as well.
Got a question. Is this program able to communicate with Building Connected and Build? And the answer is yes. So Build is actually part of the unified platform, and we're working to unify Building Connected as well. But Docs is really the common data environment that connects a lot of our tools. So that includes Build and Building Connected.
Absolutely. And obviously, Autodesk Takeoff being a part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform is huge. So that way, a lot of our customers can really connect that full project lifecycle.
Another question, is Autodesk Takeoff good for earthwork takeoffs? So I wouldn't say that earthwork or civil is necessarily a fit unless you're doing like structural takeoffs. Yeah, like road and highway, we typically don't see many customers leveraging takeoff for that vertical.
Absolutely. And then another question about how do we go about two estimators trying to measure the same room? Any duplicating issues? So in a cloud-based environment, two estimators can work collaboratively. So as they continue to add takeoffs to a plan within the same package, the other estimator would be able to see exactly what someone else is doing if they're in the exact same package. The other way to kind of break things down is based off of different scopes within those packages. So if you have estimators working on different scopes, let's say someone's working on the architectural scope, someone's working on the mechanical scope, I would suggest breaking things down into those different packages. So if they are measuring the same room and working on, different measurements, they don't have to necessarily worry about, being in someone else's way on the same plan. So essentially, every single plan within Autodesk Takeoff is available within every single package. And that's just a way to kind of organize those different quantities.
Another question, does Takeoff link to any estimating software? So currently we don't have direct integrations to any estimating software, but we have that inventory export out to Excel. And if you have the setup with all your classification codes, you can have that set up to be match kind of like your estimating database with all the same classification codes. So right now it's just an inventory export to Excel with all your quantities.
Absolutely. And then another question is, does this integrate with Building Connected for bid management? That's a really great question. So obviously Building Connected is a part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform. And what Building Connected does have the ability to do is actually kickstart new projects within the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment for Autodesk Build. And that'll actually pull over all of the files within Building Connected. So any files that are already uploaded into Building Connected, we can pull directly into our central common data environment within Autodesk Construction Cloud platform that can then be leveraged for Autodesk Takeoff. So that's kind of the existing connection And obviously there are, future connections to come as we continue to integrate some of these other solutions like ProEst and Building Connected with the ACC platform.
This question, how do I find projects to bid? I think this also kind of piggybacks on what Rachel was saying with Building Connected. I would look at Building Connected to start finding projects that you can bid on, and then you can definitely leverage the network, this over of 1 million users that allow you to bid on projects through Building Connected.
All right, so I think we might have time for one more question here. Let's see. Let's see if I can find a good one. A lot of them have been answered here. So a couple more questions on communicating with Building Connected and Build here. And is there a way, all right, here's a good question. So is there a way to navigate between sheets and models via a shortcut or next page? So currently you would kind of navigate over into the Sheets and Models tab. From there, there's a lot of additional filtering that you can do to find the exact sheet that you would need to be working with. So you can kind of filter in over from that Sheets and Models navigation page. And then we also do have some additional shortcuts, and I don't believe that kind of navigating to the next page is currently available, but that's definitely something that we can bring back to our product teams who are also on the line here as well. So I wish we could have been able to get to all of the different questions in here, but appreciate everyone joining today's webinar. Like we mentioned, there will be a recording being sent out here of the webinar. And if you love to kind of dive a little bit more into Autodesk Takeoff, we'd be really excited to do so with you guys. So if you answered yes to the poll, we'll be definitely reaching out. Excited to kind of work with you guys a little bit more. Thank you for joining.